All right. Well, welcome again to our EMBA application Q&A for the day. The purpose of this is to tell you anything and everything you need to know about the application process for a Global Executive MBA program, answer any questions that you have so you are ready to submit the strongest application possible for yourself by our next deadline on January 10th. So welcome. Here's kind of brief introduction or agenda for the day. Start with an introduction of both myself as well as the program. As I'm kind of looking through the list, I know many of you went to the program overview a couple weeks ago. That's great. That gave you all the details on the program. If you did not attend that event, haven't talked to me, I can send you the link to that recording if you need to get caught up on the details of the program, since most of today is going to be focused on the application and admissions process. So we'll talk about the timeline. We'll talk about the components of the application, give you all of the best tips and tricks for what the admissions committee is looking for and how to present the best application. And then I will open it up for questions at the end. So if you do have any questions, feel free. You can type them into the chat or the Q&A at any point while I'm rambling today. And then we'll kind of run through them all at the end. So I'm going to save the questions for the end, but feel free, so you don't forget them, to type them in the chat as we go. All right, so introductions. By way of introduction, obviously, hopefully you figured out by now, I am Tracy Kolicki. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Associate Director of Admissions for the Global Executive MBA program. So my primary focus is just on the EMBA. Also, Sarah Joyce Baker is part of our enrollment team. She's our outreach specialist. So when people kind of initially inquire about the program, she is often kind of that first point of contact, reaching out to people to answer some initial questions and make the connection. So I do a lot of that as well, but Sarah's kind of my support on that kind of initial outreach. And then Amy is our back-end operations person. So she helps reply to emails, answer the phone if you call our main line. But mostly she's in charge of putting all the application material together. So if there's an issue with your application or something missing or anything like that, she'll be the one emailing you to make sure all of the I's are dotted and T's are crossed and everything before she sends it on to the full committee to review for admission. On the bottom row there are a few additional people that support the Executive MBA. Cassie Smith is our Interim Director of Admissions over all graduate admissions in Mendoza. Claire is our Senior Director, so she's over all of graduate enrollment. And then Rebecca Wood is Portfolio Marketing Manager. It's kind of like the brand manager for the EMBA program. Cassie and Rebecca are out on maternity leave. They had a baby on the exact same day a couple months ago. So you will not see their faces for a little bit longer, but we're excited to have them back later in the new year. All right, so brief introduction on the program, just so you have a little bit of context if you're coming in here fresh and have no idea what the EMBA program here is all about. So we have a Global Executive MBA program. It is 22 months. You start in early August and you finish just under 2 years later in May. I will mention that as we talk about each class group, we talk about the graduation year. So if you start with us in August of 24, we will call you the 26s or the class of 26. So if you hear me talk about the 24s or the 25s or the 26s, that is the year that they're graduating. So we have 24s and 25s that are working on the program now. You'll be 26 if you start with us in August. There is a note on there that we start the program in Ireland. That's very important information to know. So the first week of the program is our Executive Integral Leadership immersion, and we are doing that for the first time this year in Ireland. We want to give some additional kind of cultural context and global experience to our students with a variety of new experiences. So that's kicking off with the very first week. We will meet over in Ireland. We will connect and grow and build community. We will also take our Executive Integral Leadership course, which is a very transformational course where you learn a leadership framework, you do a lot of kind of self-awareness to understand yourself and how you relate to other people and really build your leadership skills in that way. So that will be the first week of the program. And then we have Monthly residencies are kind of the core of the program, where you come to campus once a month for classes Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Those are all day, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, that you come once a month. And so you'll do that for a while. And then about halfway through the program in June, we have our June electives week. And this is kind of a choose your own adventure. For electives week, there are a variety of classes that we will offer on campus. So you can come to South Bend and you get to choose 2 classes to take during electives week. So you'll have one morning class and one afternoon class. Or you can elect to take our international elective. And so for that course, you will travel with a group to some other country to do a consultative type of project with a partner company in that location. So wherever we end up traveling to, you'll be able to get some hands-on experience putting in practice the guess at the moment is that might be like a global finance type of class that you'll get to work on some finance projects for a company in another country. And then we'll go back to our monthly residencies for a little bit. And then we have our social enterprise capstone in March, just before graduation. And that's where we put everything that we've learned over the 2 years into practice in a global setting. So it's kind of taking that June electives international immersion and expanding it a little bit. So we'll work with multiple organizations in another country, working on some projects and doing some consulting hands-on work with that. So that's kind of the rundown of the whole program. Again, if you have questions about the program and all of that, I'm happy to answer them, in a one-on-one or send you the link to the program overview, anything like that down the road. But let's get into the application, because I know that's the real reason you all are here. So this is just an overview of our kind of general admissions process. You submit your application, and this is what happens. So we have multiple people on our admissions committee who read every application and every word of application. So multiple people will be reading it. Then we meet as an admissions committee to kind of go over the notes in each candidate to decide who we want to move forward and learn more about through the interview process. So then we invite to interview, and we have a virtual interview. It's about 30 to 40 minutes similar to Zoom, but a different format, or a different platform. That's the word. After interviews, we meet again as an admissions committee to kind of talk through each candidate and make final decisions and release those to candidates from there. We do that multiple times a year. So we're right kind of in the middle. We've done early decision. We just released our round 1 decisions last week, so that was a really exciting time. And then our round 2 deadline is just around the corner. I'm going to show you a chart with the dates in just a minute. And then we'll also have a round 3. That round 4, you can just ignore. We've had that in previous years, but this year, since we're starting in Ireland, we are trying to avoid a round 4 because there won't be enough time for everything that needs to happen to be able to start the program in Ireland. So you have round 2 or round 3 are your options at this point. And then here's that handy dandy chart of dates. So our most recommended at this point in the cycle, most recommended time to apply is January 10th. So this next application deadline, that's just a few weeks away. I won't take an extra week. I think you have a few weeks. You've got at least the holidays. So hopefully you can take a little bit of time to relax and focus on the application. But January 10th is most recommended time to apply. If you apply by January 10th, we do that whole process that I talked about, make our final decisions and release those decisions to you by March 5th or on March 15th. So that's the day that you circle on your calendar, stay close to phone and email so we can be in touch with you with your admissions decision March 15th. Then you would have March 15th to about April 15th-ish to make your decision and confirm your seat. We do have a $2,500 tuition deposit that you put down and say to save your seat so that we know that you are planning to come and join us in August. So just a little bit additional timeline for you there. And then you'll have from that point of confirmation until August to get all of your ducks in a row and all the things prepared. And then we also, if January is too soon for you, we have that March 19th deadline. That one is decisions are not released until May 10th, and then confirmation date you have until June 10th. So that's less than 2 months from when we start the program. So that puts a little bit of a tighter timeline there. There's a lot of things to do. We do have some prep work and an accounting boot camp and some quantitative options to make sure everybody's coming into the program like fresh and ready to hit the ground running. So that's why there's that May-June timeframe is a little bit of a tight period for the pre-work or the prep work and paperwork and all of those things that you want to make sure that you've done so you can start the program strong. So if at all possible, I'm rambling, but if at all possible, apply by January 10th. All right. Application components. So this is kind of the full laundry list of all the things. I keep pointing over there because that's where I'm seeing my slides, but it's probably opposite for you. But this is kind of the laundry list of all of the requirements that are needed for the application process. And I'm going to go through each of them to give you some quick and dirty tips about all of them. But resume, letters of recommendation, transcripts, test scores are optional. Statement of purpose, essay. We have an optional essay if you want to throw in some more information. We have a video assessment. I'll explain more about that. And then obviously the interview would be an additional component of the application process. So nothing too like out of the ordinary or strange there. All right. So your resume, often I start talking about the resume by saying, take the resume that you use to apply for a job and throw it away. It's maybe not entirely accurate, but it's a good starting point. What we're looking for with a resume when you're looking at graduate business school is we want to see the full context of what you will be able to contribute to the conversations in the classroom, all that you're bringing to the table. So often when you go to create your resume for applying for a job, you're tailoring it to the specific job description that you're applying for, making sure there's, you take out all the fluff and only show what relates to that. Whereas for admissions into our program, we're looking for anything and everything that you're bringing to the table. So I don't want to see a 10-page resume because we are having multiple people read every application. That's a little too much. But no more than 2-3 pages should be sufficient information to provide the full context of everything that you're bringing. We want you to show kind of that full career history and the leadership story and journey that you've been on. So we can see the growth, see the changes and things that you've accomplished and things like that. So make sure you're highlighting the actual tangible achievements that you've got. So, if you increase sales by 175%, add that information. If you were responsible for a team of 15 people, put that. Or maybe you were responsible for I have no idea, I'm just making numbers up, a $2 million budget, like whatever you can add to kind of showcase the scope of your responsibility and contribution to that position is really helpful. If you've worked in multiple industries, some people, tailor that down and pull that extra information out, but it's helpful for us to know of that. So add that in. If you have kind of a side project or, side hustle, make sure that's shown on your resume so that we can see all of the details. And then, of course, honors and awards, special interests that you have, extracurricular activities, volunteer. If you coach your kids' soccer team, if you volunteer for Girls on the Run, I'm talking about things that I do, but, anything that you do, if you are a part of a board leadership, anything like that. If you are involved in a employee resource group or anything with your employer, all that information is really helpful for us to see on your resume. Recommendations. So we require at least 2 letters of recommendation. You have the option to add a third if you have 3 people that want to speak your praises. You're welcome to supply 3, but we need to do 2. One of your recommendation letters needs to come from a current supervisor or employer to show that you've had the conversations with them about essentially the time off and everything that's involved in the program, and that they support you in doing that. So we want to make sure that you've had those conversations ahead of time, because if you wait till you get admitted and present that calendar to your employer and be like, I need all these days off, and they're like, you don't have enough PTO for that. that becomes a problem. So start the conversations now, make sure that's all squared away, you have their support. And so by them providing a letter of recommendation, we assume that means you've had those conversations, and obviously they submit you if they're recommending you. Or I said submit you, they support you, and that's why they're recommending you. I will also give you the caveat, if you own your own company, you do not have a supervisor, we usually will waive that. We will waive that. Some people in those positions might do like the chairman of the board if they have a board for their company, or other people that they've interacted with. But if you own your own company or are in a position where you do not have a direct supervisor, that can be waived. If you are new to your position, and it doesn't make sense for your current supervisor to write your letter of recommendation, or they're new to the position, you can have a separate statement of support letter that your supervisor writes, and then use someone else as your actual recommender. So there's a few options there depending on your unique circumstances. The other thing to know about the recommendations is that you are not going out and getting the letter and sending it to us or submitting it in your application. You will put the name and the contact information, the title of your recommender, and then we will send them an email with a link to the form and the information that they need to submit the letter directly to us. So you'll provide their contact information, and then just let them know to look for the email from Notre Dame so that they can get that recommendation complete. So every once in a while, we like you to use the internal employer email, obviously, for these. Every once in a while, they do get grabbed by spam. So if they don't get that, then just shoot us an email, and we have other ways to send it, or we can send it to a personal if we needed to. All right, transcripts are required from every school you've attended. So if you started at a community college and then went to a four-year college, if you bounced around a couple of places before you finally finished, any and all details. If you have a graduate degree already, if you already have a master's degree, or some students who have PhDs or MDs or anything like that, submit all of your transcripts, because they all provide context and information for the admissions committee to show your academic readiness in the program. So all of that's important. The unofficial transcripts are allowed for the initial evaluation. So we do require official transcripts that are sent directly from the school to Notre Dame for your final packet of your final admission and to be able to start the program. But for initial evaluation, if you have a copy laying around at home that you want to just scan and upload to your application just for speed at this point, that's okay. Just know that the official ones will need to come later. If you have an international degree, we do require a course-by-course evaluation from a third-party organization. So that will be something that you will need to do. Also, we can do an unofficial, as long as it's in English. You can submit the transcripts you have for now, and then apply with World Education Services or ECE. There's a variety of different third-party organizations that will do a course-by-course evaluation. You can use any of them as long as we have one. So while that's in progress, submit your what you have for your transcripts, and we can add to it from there. The information on where to send it to is there on the slide, but that is all included in the online portal for the application, so you don't necessarily have to jot that down. I do want to mention, I always forget to start it off with, you can start your application at any time. It is an online application, and you create a login and password. So I always tell people, like, create your login and password today so you can start like reading through all of the things that are needed. And then, between today and Christmas, it gives you the chance to like mull things over. You think about the essay prompts and all of that. You can add stuff, as you go. And then finally press submit when it's all there and ready and how you want it to be. So just know that it's not like you sit down and all in one sitting have to put the application together. So I'll have the link at the end. So if you wanted to just start your application right away or create that login, you're more than welcome to do that. Highly recommended. Test scores, as I said, are optional. So hopefully that's a sigh of relief to many of you who are concerned about, do I have to take the GMAT at this, age and stage of life, or GRE or any of those things. It is optional. I would say most students do not submit test scores. And if it's a matter of, can I apply by January 10th or without a test score, or wait, take a test score and apply later, I would say submit now, because if we feel like we like everything about this person, except we have that little bit of a question on the academic preparedness, we will do a conditional admission and ask for test scores. So it helps to kind of speed up the process. Just submit with what you've got. You've got, assuming you've got a good career, you've got good mission fit, all of those things. If your academics are a little bit questionable, we will, instead of just saying an absolute no, we do what we can to kind of keep the door open as much as possible. So if it's just a question of academics, we have a few options. We can either say, please go take the executive assessment. If you get this score or higher, then you're automatically admitted, and we move on from there. If we feel like you're good on academics, except we're not quite sure about quantitative, and quantitative is really important in a business program, we have a couple of math prep courses that we may recommend for students, or require for students to take. So there's several options for conditional admission that we can do. So don't let the idea that you haven't taken a test score and you might need to take a test score stop you from applying. Apply early. This is one of the biggest reasons I tell people apply as early as possible, so that January 10th is recommended, so that if we need to get a test score or have you take a course or anything else conditionally, you've got plenty of time to do that. One of the math prep courses that we have some students take it requires at least 6 weeks, recommended to have 3 to 6 months to take that course. So if you apply by January, you'll have time to get that course out of the way. If you apply by March, that's almost impossible to get that course out of the way. So if you have an undergraduate background that is not quant heavy, we have a lot of people who find themselves in the business world that, maybe they were art history majors or psychology or something that did not require accounting, finance, statistics, any of those types of things. We have options, so don't let that scare you off. Just apply quickly. That was a long explanation. So test scores are optional. If you have them already, feel free to submit them. If you don't, apply without, and we can open that door for conversation as we go. Community and service activities. So there's a section on the application for activities. Some people put activities in their resume. Some people put it in the section. Some people put it in both. A lot of times, if your resume is full of, job things, then it's helpful to have an extra section. If you're at that 3 pages and you can't fit your activities on there, you've got a whole section on your application. So the key here is just make sure this information is somewhere on your application, because it's really important. And the reason it is important is the mission at Mendoza is to grow the good in business. And that's not just a marketing tagline that we have. It really is kind of the heartbeat behind everything we do and the people that we bring here. The people that are drawn to Notre Dame are values-based leaders who want to make a difference in the world with the work that they're doing in their jobs. And so as we are looking at candidates for the program, we want to make sure we're admitting people who are already growing the good, who are already living out that ethos that we're looking for to kind of be that force for good. So this information is good to just show the additional context and experience and contribution of things that you have to add to the program. But mission fit is a huge part of any kind of service activities, of course. So if you volunteer anywhere, if you do community service, if you do extracurricular activities, anything and everything that you think that would kind of add to either mission fit or the kind of contribution to who you are as a person and what you'll be able to add to the class, make sure that's put into the activity section for resume alternatively. So hopefully that makes sense. Personal statement. So this is like your mini essay. I call this your elevator pitch for why you want to be here. This is 100 words or less. So if you're like me and you're wordy, this will be the challenging one. But it's really just talking about your goals. Where do you see yourself going with your career, and how is the EMBA program going to help you get there? So just a brief statement on where you want to go and what our program will do to get you there. You don't have to have like a fully articulated out idea of, where you want to take your career. Some people come into this and they're like, I know I want something different, and they can kind of describe a little bit of it, but not all the details. That's okay. We have career services that can help you formulate that out and, flesh that out and make a real plan. But give us some context for, are you wanting to pivot into something totally different? Are you wanting to just move up the ladder where you are? Are you wanting to be an entrepreneur? Anything like that. So have an idea from the start of what you want to do, where you want to go, so that we can kind of build on that. Know where you're wanting to go to make sure that our program is able to, is aligned to those goals. All right, so your essay, if you applied a year ago or more than that, we had 2 full essays. Now we only have 1, so kudos to you for waiting and only being required to do 1 full-length essay. It's 500 words or less. And this is, so in the essay prompt, it gives you a lovely story about when Father Soren founded the university. The purpose was to be a force for good. You've probably heard that. If you've been around Notre Dame for a while, we're all about being a force for good and doing good in the world. And that goes all the way back to 1842 when we were founded. But in testing my memory here, in the late 1800s, I'm just going to say that, it says an essay prompt, the main building of the university burned down. And we thought it was, everyone, like I was there, they thought it was kind of the end at that point. But Father Soren looked out over the ashes and he was like, no, this happened because we didn't dream big enough, and we're going to build back bigger and better than ever. And so the purpose of this essay is to get you thinking through that kind of situation in your own life. Like, when have you faced an obstacle or seen everything burn to the ground and had to rebuild? When is a time that you've had to just persevere even through the hard and muck and the difficulty of life and rebuild into something bigger and better than ever? So what is your story of resilience? That's what we want to hear about in the essay. Make it personal. Write it as if you're writing to a friend. We get a lot of essays, not a lot, but there's always that handful of essays where I'm reading it and I was like, there's like the big words and the philosophical like ideas and all of that. And I don't know if it's because they're applying to Notre Dame, but like, we want to know about you and your personality and your story. So add some personality to your essay, make it something that that's interesting to read and really, really kind of showcases who you are, what you've been through, and those kinds of things. So there is an optional essay that you can add. So if there is anything else that you want the admissions committee to know about you prior to deciding, you have an entire page that you can tell us about it. So usually this is if there's some kind of thing that you need to clarify in your undergraduate experience. Maybe you something tragic happened and it shows on your GPA or on your transcript. And you want to explain and give some context for that. If you have gaps in your resume and want to explain what you were doing or what was happening at that time in your life, that's a great thing to put in the essay. If you, some people will have like some kind of neat thing that they're involved in or side project or something that it's just more helpful to write it in an essay form than adding it to, bullet points on a resume. I've seen those types of things as well. So anything else you want us to know, just feel free to add it in that optional essay. I would say most people don't provide that optional essay, but if you feel like, yeah, maybe this would be helpful to give this context, absolutely. Scholarships. So the last page of the application is a page, basically it's real short and sweet, asking if you want to be considered for scholarships. We have merit-based and need-based scholarships. So there's basically check yes or no. For merit-based, it's yes, no, and then we use the information in your application, your community involvement, your career, your transcripts, all of those things to make merit-based decisions, obviously, all on the merit. and go from there. If for need-based, it is check yes or no, and then you also have the option to, if you press yes, click yes, provide like a few sentences. I forget what the word count is on that, or character count, but just a couple sentences to provide any extra context. So we use for need-based scholarship decisions, we use current compensation information and your FAFSA information to make those decisions, as well as that little paragraph of information. So if there's additional context that's not shown in your FAFSA information and your current compensation, like you're supporting aging parents, or I don't know. I don't know what other examples there are, but I'm sure there's plenty. Medical issues or anything like that we wouldn't see. You're welcome to kind of give us a couple paragraphs or a couple of sentences of context there. For the FAFSA information, just so you know, the estimated family contribution is like the number they give you at the end. That usually people are like, I don't know what this means. We know what it means, so it's fine. But it's now called Student Aid Index. So it's very similar to the estimated family contribution, but that's the information we use. So you don't have to like upload your entire FAFSA. Just make sure we have, if it's the older, prior to 24-25 FAFSA, it'll be estimated family contribution. If it's the new one that just came out, it's Student Aid Index. So just so that people know if you're looking for EFC, it may say EFC on the application. It's now called Student Aid Index, but we use that to make those decisions. Admissions decisions are made separate from scholarship decisions. So it's essentially need blind and merit request blind. So we make all our admissions decisions, and then we look to see who wants a scholarship and make those decisions in a separate committee. Something else I was going. Oh, the other thing I will mention is some people ask, like, what is defined as need? And you get to define need. So if you feel you have need, apply for, click yes for need. And that way it just signals to the scholarship committee to make that additional consideration. So worst case is we're not able to provide any additional award for need, but best case, you get a little extra bonus. So if you feel that you have need, absolutely click the yes for need. All right, so you'll submit all of your application materials that we've already talked about, all of the things, the pieces that I've already mentioned. And then a day or two later, you get an email inviting you to complete our Kira video assessment. And some people, this like freaks them out a little bit more than others. So I will just start this conversation with like, it's not as scary as it seems, and don't overthink it. So you get this invitation, and basically you'll see someone on the admissions committee on video asking you a question. You have a few seconds to think about it, and then you record yourself answering that question on video. So it's kind of like an asynchronous interview setting. There are, all of a sudden my mind's blanking, I think there's 4, maybe 5 questions, and you get 2 minutes to reply. So it's going to take you 15, 20 minutes, not long at all. And they are like, you only get 2 minutes to reply. So I think that's the biggest thing, is people are like, how do I, like say enough, but not too much or whatever. If it cuts you off but I can tell you are almost there, you're fine. Don't stress. Biggest tip, and this should not be that big of a tip, but it is, don't wear a hoodie. This is, an executive level program that you're applying for. And this is the kind of first impression of like visual impression that the admissions committee will get. And it is the only impression that the full committee will get. So you will interview with one person on the admissions committee. Often that's me, but not always me. But then at the admissions committee meetings, we often will pull up these so that the full committee can kind of get a feel for the personality and the style and the professionalism of each student. So you don't have to wear a full suit, although bonus points if you do, but definitely not a hoodie. So but put on something nice, at least top up. We all know how to work in the Zoom world these days, so that you've got that level of professionalism. And then take it as kind of, if you were having a conversation or an interview, you wouldn't have a whole lot of time to think anyway. So we recognize you're thinking on the fly, and so that's the video assessment. Again, don't stress too much about it. It really just helps us to get a general feel for your communication style, your professionalism and personality and those kinds of things. All right. So then, as I mentioned, that all is evaluated. We determine who we want to learn more about and invite those people to interview. So not everyone is invited to interview, but almost everyone is. So you'll probably be invited to interview. Totally rough guess at this point, since I don't know anything about most of you. Anyways, so we complete them through Kira is the platform, and they are about 30 to 40 minutes. Like I said, it's just with one person on the admissions committee, and it's just really a chance to get to know you a little bit more. Have some like stories and context and understanding of Notre Dame. All of those things are, obviously good to prepare. But we are intentionally not trying to like stump people or make this really hard. So hopefully our questions are not like, if you were a cheeseburger, what piece of the cheeseburger would you be? Like those questions that don't expect those. So anyways, the interview dates are pre-scheduled for round 2. So if you apply by January 10th, just know that most of the dates that you'll see available, you get to pick the date and time based on what's available. And most of them will be Tuesday, Thursday, and some Fridays, maybe a Monday thrown in there. But for the most part, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday are the big dates. And it's pretty much all of February. We will be interviewing those days. So if you wanted to like mark things off on your calendar, just make sure you save some time during those times. It gives you a little heads up there. All right, so that is the long and full explanation of all of the different pieces of the application process. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more context. I see we have several questions, so I will get to them here in a moment, but I want to give you a few extra bonus tips. The first one is apply anytime in the round. The official deadline is January 10th, but you can submit your application today. I already have several who have submitted for this round, so don't wait till the last minute. Submit as soon as possible. We can start evaluating your application sooner, get you invited to interviews sooner so that you get, your pick of the best, interview times. Also, decisions are released according to the posted date. I almost said December 15th. That's the last one. That's what I did on Friday. March 15th is our admissions decision release date for January 10th. So that's the day that we will be calling you. Very rarely are we able to do early decisions. So just know, stay close to phone and email. That's right before St. Patrick's Day, so a very Irish time of the year. So you can celebrate your welcome to the Irish family for St. Patrick's Day weekend if you are admitted on that March 15th. So another bonus for applying in January. Submit your portion of the application by the deadline. That's another important bonus tip. So your letters of recommendation and even your transcripts may not necessarily be in by January 10th, and it can still count. So you will submit all of your information, the contact information for your recommenders, and at least, if you've got, at least request your transcripts, and then press the submit button at any point. If you're and then your letters of recommendation and transcripts have time to arrive over the next couple of weeks. So we don't actually start reading your application until we have those pieces, but you can make it by the deadline if you get everything in by January 10th, and we're just waiting on the recommender. So they get a little bit of a grace period to submit those. So just know that the grace period's like 2 weeks, the 2 weeks that we're reading applications, because we're starting interviews in February. So if you haven't gotten your recommendations in by February, you may miss out on an interview, and that pushes you out of the round. So keep on your recommenders to make sure that they are completing those in a timely fashion, but they've got a couple weeks to do that after the round or after the deadline. And then, as I've mentioned already before, unofficial transcripts are fine to get us started, just so we can kind of move things along, and then we'll get the official ones later. More quick and dirty tips. Showcase your unique contribution. And I think I've talked about this already, but we are looking to intentionally build a very diverse classroom of students, and diverse on anything and everything from industry to level to type, business unit to obviously a gender and all of the things. So we're looking in that building diversity. The important thing is that we are very collaborative here, recognizing the value that each person is bringing to the program. You're not just learning from the professor at the front of the classroom, you learn from everybody. And so as we're looking as an admissions committee, we want to see, what is that unique voice that this person is going to bring to the classroom to be able to share and expand the learning and knowledge. So as you're putting together your resume and your essays and all of those things, make sure you're highlighting what you feel is that unique voice and contribution that you would make. As I've also mentioned, highlight how you live the Mendoza mission. Grow the good. It's really important. Are you growing the good in the work that you do? Are you growing the good in your community? Where and how are you growing the good? Make sure we see that somewhere. And then what is the value that you bring to a team? As part of that collaborative approach, we have small group learning teams that you are assigned to while you're in the program. They're 5-6 people. You will do a lot of work and studying and connecting with that small group learning team. So we try to balance those for diversity. Usually that's kind of like the goal there is almost to build like a mini C-suite. So we'll have somebody who's good at finance and accounting. We'll have somebody that's good at HR, good at operations, sales and marketing. So you've got a subject matter expert on your team as you go through the classes that you can kind of lean on to strengthen. So, as you're thinking of that, how are you going to bring value to that small team? And I've also talked about know your why. Why do you want to come to Notre Dame? Why do you want to do this rigorous program? What are you hoping to get out of it? What's the experience that you want, and where do you hope to go with it? And how being able to articulate that, even if it looks a little bit foggy and you don't know exactly, you just know that this is the next right step, kind of be able to speak to that, because once you understand your why and the motivation that you have, that shines through. Even if you're not clearly, exactly articulating all the steps, it shines through in showing your motivation to the admissions committee as they're making those decisions. All right. Next up, information. I've got all my QR codes there stacked, so hopefully you can highlight the right one. And that makes it easier to get to these links, since they're not the prettiest of links. But a few steps that you could take. Obviously, right on the bottom, start your application. That's literally the point of coming to this session today, is to get the information on to start your application. So feel free, like I said, create the login and password today so you can start adding things and mulling over the essay prompt and all of that over the coming days. Above that, attend an event. We have a variety of different in-person and virtual events. This is the last one for this year, but we start fresh in January. We have a class visit coming up January 13th. It's that Friday. That if you want to come in and sit in on a class, have lunch with the students, get a feel for the culture and environment here. That's really helpful for a lot of people as they're kind of contemplating and making the decision. So if that sounds like it would be helpful for you, we have one monthly. January 13th is just the next one. January, February, and March. Those are the last ones. So if you miss those, I've got nothing for you until next fall. But they're already on that events calendar. We also have an event coming up in January, negotiating employer support. So if you are concerned about getting your employer on board with you taking the time off or paying for the program or a portion of the program, you can attend that webinar to get some tips and tricks on how to present to them and help your employer see the value of the program to them, so that they are more likely to support you in completing the program. So a variety of different, like I said, in-person and virtual events. So check out the events calendar for any that look interesting to you. And then I'm always available to meet with people one-on-one for a variety of reasons. If you have unique and special questions to you, if you are like, I think I'm the right fit, but I'm not sure. If you want to talk through your resume and get some like tips and tricks of like, before you submit your application, have me like kind of walk through your resume and tell you, you might want to add this or change this or whatever, just to make sure that you have the strongest application possible. Feel free to schedule some time. We can meet by Zoom or phone, or if you're local, in person. So that is available to schedule there right on my calendar. All right. Now I've said a lot of words, so I will open it up to questions and jump into this. I've put the email address down here, emba.business@nd.edu. That is always the number one easiest way to reach me or anyone on the EMBA kind of enrollment team. So if you have unique questions to you or questions beyond today, just shoot an email there and we'll be sure to answer it. But let's get to these. And again, if you have more, feel free to add them to the chat while I'm talking here. How many days are on campus? That is a great question. I should count it out one of these days. So it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, basically every month for 22 months outside of July. Halfway through the program, you do get July off. And then you've got the week-long immersions 3 times a month. So that's not the greatest of answers, but I can count it out and send that information to you later if you want to email that to me. I can also, this is very old school, I have the calendars. So I can share with you the calendars. It's upside down. This is a good time to explain the calendars. So we will have, the goal this year is to have 60 to 80 students in the class of 2026. So 60 to 80 people start in early August. But we like semi-small class sizes here. So we're going to create 2 cohorts of 30 to 40 students. And we want those cohorts to have the exact same experience. So they're coming on different weekends. So for your week-long immersions, you'll be with the full class of 2026. So when we meet in Ireland, everyone's all together and we mix and mingle and network with a big crowd of us. But then when you come monthly, you'll be with just your class of 30 to 40, whatever cohort that you are assigned to. And then the opposite year, so the 25s or the 27s may also be on campus on that same weekend. So you get to mix and mingle and network with people in cross years as well as your own years. So it gives you a lot of networking opportunities. That's a short story. But you'll be assigned a cohort because we want to make sure there's diversity across the cohorts and we don't have all our CPAs in one cohort and everybody that's, lawyers and doctors in the other cohort or something like that. Not that everyone's lawyers, doctors, and CPAs, but you know what I mean. So you're assigned a cohort. When you are admitted, I say, yay, welcome to the family, you're admitted. And then I also say you're in blue cohort or you're in gold cohort. So then you get your calendar and you come across off the dates from there. So another reason why you should apply in January instead of March so that you can start crossing off the dates on your calendar sooner. Anyways, if you want me to email you the calendars so that you can at least have a general idea of the time commitment and all of that, happy to do that. Just send me an email. What if employer does not agree? Tips of persuasion. I love that question because that is exactly what our webinar is all about next month. So January 16th, watch that webinar. Nick Farmer, my colleague who did this job for a long time, he's now our Senior Associate Director of Partnerships, Corporate Partnerships. So that's literally his job, is to go and help employers see the value of the education. So he's going to give us a lot of tips of persuasion in that. So I would say definitely do your best to attend that event. Can the essays fall outside the total word count? 500 words or less is the word count we're looking for. So if they're shorter, that's fine. I would say if it's just a couple brief paragraphs, it's not going to be enough. We want some context to it, some length. So get as close to 500. I will also mention there's not like some machines that is counting up the words. I do not count up the words. So if you're at like 515, I'm not going to know because I do not look that closely. So just make it as close to 500. We know what 500 double spaced and typed in 12-point font looks like in general. So just keep it as close to that as you can. Does the deposit get refunded if we use financial aid for payment? It does not. It is a deposit that you are putting down kind of as a payment on your tuition. So that will be something that kind of the portion of tuition that you would need to pay upfront. So if you are using financial aid, you could financial aid could essentially reimburse you because financial aid is basically going to be student loans at this level of the program. And so you would get student loans for the full cost of the program and it would reimburse you for the tuition deposit, but it's not refundable whether you start the program or not, and from our end on financial aid, but for student loan pieces, it is. Hopefully that made sense. For the format or for the essays, what format is preferred? I literally beyond typed 12-point font, double spaced format doesn't matter too much. I have 2 degrees in psychology, so I'm all about the APA, but I will not dock points or worry if you use some other format. Title page is not necessary. Some people do, some people don't. Make it yours, however you want to do it, whatever makes you feel comfortable, totally fine. Is there a limit on how many students will be accepted? I can have a max of 120 students total between the 2 cohorts because we don't have a whole lot of seats beyond that. It really is really determined by the number of seats in the classroom. So we will max out at 120 students. Probably not going to get 120 because our goal is more like 80. So we're looking for, the best students. But if I had to say a max, it would be 120. Any recruiting events near the end of the program? Employer recruiting is what I'm guessing. I was like, what are we recruiting for at that point? Yes, employer recruiting. So as a Notre Dame student, as a Mendoza student, you have access to all of the resources and facilities and all of the things as any other student at Notre Dame and Mendoza. With the EMBA program, things are done a little bit differently, especially on the career development side of things, because our students in the EMBA are not quitting their jobs and then needing to be placed in a new job 2 years later after they complete the program. You're working all the way through. And so a lot of people, they're working all the way through and they continue working and maybe get promotions or whatever thereafter at the place where they're at, and all this lovely and fine. Many people, that's not the case, but there's a very, very vast array of why people are doing the program, what they want to do with their career, where they want to take it, all of those things. So we take a very individual approach to career services. So we have a career coach who is solely focused on EMBA students, and he works with you one-on-one to figure out what you want to do, create a plan, hold you accountable to that plan, help you get the resources, the connections, the practice for interviews, anything you need to make sure you get where you want to be with your career. So there's not specific EMBA focused recruiting events that happen in the program, but you have access to, like, if MBA recruiters are, if people are recruiting for the MBA, full-time MBA students on campus, you're welcome to attend any of those types of things. So you can do that. It's just usually the recruiters that are looking for MBA students and any of the, any on-campus recruitment is usually for people at kind of a lower level than the students in the EMBA program. So it's better to have that individualized approach. We use the Notre Dame network as well as a lot of different, employer connections and things like that to connect you individually versus like a full mass recruiting event. It was a long answer, but hopefully that helped to give some context. So you're welcome to attend recruiting events. We have a lot of them on campus. They just may not be the right fit for the level of students our EMBA program is at. And so we use a variety of different networking opportunities to get your foot in the door otherwise. How much access do we have to alumni during the 22 months? Great question. So Notre Dame Alumni Network is one of the greatest in the world, the nation, and that starts essentially from day one. So there are a variety of different events. Like every football Friday, we have a Mendoza rally right in the courtyard here where any alums who are in the area go, and it's like a mix and mingle network time. So if you're in class that day, you can come and do it and join that. So there's those kinds of networking and connections and events that happen on campus all the time. There's also Irish Compass. Everything is Irish something here. I'm pretty sure it's Irish Compass. That is like the Notre Dame Alumni Network LinkedIn that you have access to. And it is only Notre Dame alumni who have intentionally signed up for this service, but there's thousands and thousands and thousands on it. Has all kinds of search filters and things, so you can be like, I want to know somebody at this company in this business unit doing this job or whatever, filter it down and start connecting and reaching out to people. So you've got access to that from day one. And then just in general, you can find people on LinkedIn who are Notre Dame alumni and reach out to them. often, I mean, you can do that now and start making those connections. Often, once you throw, that you're a Notre Dame student on your LinkedIn, that just kind of signals, adds that additional signal. And the Notre Dame Alumni Network is really great at responding and just doing everything they can to serve one another. So there's great connection there. Let me think. I think that was all I was going to say on the alumni network. Also, our career services has a lot of connection with alumni, so that is also a part of it. We have one student who we had on the alumni panel last week, and a current student was on, and he was talking about how an alum who used to work at the company he's at now was in the division that he wants to get into, and so he was able to set up an interview with the people that are there now. So there's a lot of that type of work that is done as well, or connection with the alumni network. Is the $2,500 tax deductible? I don't think so, because it is just a down payment on your tuition. Well, yes, in the sense that it is a tuition payment. It is included in the tuition cost of the program. My mind went to tax deductible for charity purposes, like because it's the end of the year and I'm thinking of charity purposes. So no, not for charity, but yes, for tuition and fees and all of that. So that will be included as part of the tuition costs, because it literally is just a payment on your tuition. All right, I think I am at the end of the questions. If there are any other questions, again, happy to stay on a few more minutes to answer them. But if you, again, have additional questions at any point, emba.business@nd.edu. Thank you so much for attending today. Hope this was helpful. I'm really excited and looking forward to reading all of your applications in the new year. But if you need any help or assistance along the way, happy to do so. Have a great day. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. All of the things.